There it is. We threw the switch. We're live. It's 6 NXercists, a panel of former Narwhalians. Welcome, y'all. Let's go around and introduce ourselves real quick. I think a lot of y'all know me by now. If not, I'm Zach. I'm filling in for Yuri. I wasn't supposed to be here, but they couldn't keep me away. So I am here. Yuri got married or something and is having a whole bunch of stuff. So we're just happy for him. But yeah, JVA is in the chat. Welcome, Josh. Let's go. Jason, you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. I'm Jason Jean. I'm a lead on the NX team. Yeah, I hope you like what we have in store for you. I'll popcorn it over to Jack.
Sure. Hey, I'm Jack. Also on the NX team, obviously. Mostly touching the plugins like React, a new one that we just added, Playwright, that we'll talk about later today, and stuff like that. So,
you know, I'm psyched about that one, Jack. I'm very excited. So.
Yes, we talked about it. Zach is super excited about Playwright.
I think we all know that by
Katarina,
now.
maybe.
Hi, I'm Katarina. I'm also part of the NX team. I work mostly on plugins and the Storybook plugin, which I'm going to talk about later today. And yeah, that's it. Gregory?
Yep. Hey, I'm Gregory. I'm also on the NX team. I focus mainly on the core of NX, as well as the extensibility layers, which are how the plugins interact with NX. Max?
All right, that leaves me. Hi, I'm Max. I work pretty much exclusively on NX Console, the editor integration for NX, and some core stuff sprinkled in. And I'm also a member of the NX team, like all of us.
Also, very importantly, Max is freakishly tall, so that's cool. Not freakishly. That was had a bad connotation. I meant impressively tall.
Thank you. That's better.
There we go. Cool.
Most people on NX team is tall, but I'm pretty short, so everyone's tall for me.
Yeah, I think Max, you're about 6'7", 6'8" or so.
I have no idea what inches are. I'm sorry. I can Google it.
Okay, cool. Well, while you're Googling it, it's nice to see more folks here excited for Playwright, as you should be. So cool to see that. Sachis Rukshan, welcome, sir. First time I think I've seen you here. If not, forgive me. But we've got a former Narwhalian, a former NXercist here with Brandon Roberts. Brandon, we're excited to be carrying your flame, sir. Nice to see you back around. We have questions already here. I think, let's see. I do want to give people some time. Does someone want to see if we can field this really quick?
I'm trying to understand the question. So does a buildable library have to have a dependency on another buildable library? Is what I'm understanding.
I think so.
Like if library A depends on B. Yeah. So it really depends. Like if you're using TSC, SWC to transpile your code, it is still a requirement just because like you're not bundling your code. You're actually building all the libraries separately. But if you use something like Vite or ESBuild, Rollup, then it's not really a requirement. You can always just bundle your library into your library. So it depends on which one you want to do.
Cool. Thanks, Jack. We have more Playwright fans in the audience. I love to see it. John Olson, welcome, sir. And we've got a repeat joiner, Bill. It's in the chat, sharing for Brandon. Brandon sharing the love back. That's awesome. Well, cool. We have a whole bunch of stuff that we wanted to get through today because NX 16.8 is just so full of awesome stuff. So I think we're going to try to jump right into it. And we're going to start with talking about what's probably the biggest, maybe not biggest, maybe most impactful feature of NX, and that's the new adjustments to the NX project generators, which allows for project creation paths and names. So Gregory and Jason, you also worked on this. So let's start over to Gregory. I'm going to throw up my screen, and maybe Gregory, you can drive me through some stuff if you need to.
Yeah, so the biggest change that people will notice with this in existing workspaces is whenever they start generating a new app or library, they'll get a prompt. This prompt is a temporary thing. It'll go away. But for now, while we're in this transition period, it's going to ask you how you want your project to be created. Specifically, if we want to put it in exactly where you told us, or keep the current behavior, and we change some things with that. So like the name would have the directory prepended to it is the most common thing that people would notice. Going forward, we're moving away from that. So people will be able to just tell us exactly what name they want, exactly where they want to put it, and we're having less magic in that area. There's some affordances that gives us, it makes things a little bit easier to understand what's going on. So that's the reasoning behind the change.
Cool.
Yeah, let's see if we can get to that prompt.
Yeah, let's see if we can get to it. So I think the way that I hit this before, Gregory, is I just created a new NX workspace like I'm going to do right now. And we'll just call this for live, I guess. And I think we'll do none just so we can do something empty. I don't think this matters too much. I'll go with integrated, and sure, we'll turn on CI. Why not? So we'll give that a chance to install, and then we'll open it up in VS Code, and we can try running some of these generators to get some stuff. So cool. All right, there we go. Let's CD into for live and code it up. Cool. So here's my NX workspace. We can see it's really nice and slim now because everything's empty. I do want to add like an app. So I think what I'm going to do first is we just happen to be using npm because I always forget the --PM option on that create NX workspace. But I'll do npm add with a D flag or at NX / we'll say React. I'm just grabbing one plugin that has an app generator on it. And we'll let this install. Cool. And now I think what we want to do is NXG an app and let it go from there.
I
So
want to try run that, and then we can see like the different options.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's do that with the dry run, like so. And we'll call this, I guess we can just call it foo. And we'll choose CSS. And we'll say no to React Router. And spoiler alert over here, you can see Playwright over there. We'll get to that later. I'll choose none for E2E right now, and we'll use Vite. And that went ahead and would have set up our project there for foo. You'll notice we actually didn't get asked a question there, and that is because when we look at our nx.json file and we look at the project name and root format, we're set to default to as provided.
Yeah.
So because of that, we didn't get any prompt there, but you'll notice if we look at the dry run, that foo application did not go nested inside of the apps directory like you might expect in like legacy versions of NX. So it would have just gotten created, a foo directory would have gotten created at the root of the workspace. And nothing else happened there. Do we want to, the way I was able to get the prompt was to just delete this option. Is that what we want to do here, Gregory?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. So let's do that. I'll save our NX.json. So we've pretty much just gotten rid of that preset for, if we can put that away. And now we'll just run the same exact thing. Call it foo. Same options as before. Now we can see here's a new prompt. What should the project name, what should be the project name and where should it be generated? So we have the two options here. It's as provided and derived, which is Well, they're both the same here.
Yeah,
So,
they're both the same here. If you want to pass a directory flag to that, it'll
Sure.
look a little bit cleaner.
okay, let's cancel that, and
Less,
we'll
more
do
illustrative.
-- directory equals apps. Should we do apps/foo here or just apps?
I would do it without. It should work with it, but I'm not sure on that. So
It's like this then.
yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Call it foo again. Repeat. Cool. So now we can see there's the difference. So if we were to go the one way, it would go into apps. It would go into a directory called apps, and we'd create a project JSON there with the name foo. Versus derived, it would go nested inside of apps and then foo, and then we'd create the project inside of there. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep, it is. And the reason that we see a little bit less here than we might expect with as provided, or sorry, with derived, in the past, we would have like apps-foo for the name. It's because we use that directory apps. That's something we've always stripped away. If that was a different string, it would stay there.
Maybe to show this better, could you open up the NX examples repo and we can play around with it there?
Sure. Let's see.
So this prompt is meant for people that are coming from older
Yeah.
versions of NX. We recognize that like this is a big behavior change in how you pass options and stuff. So if you're using the CLI, like we will give you a prompt that will basically give you the two options. So as you kind of break out of the old habit and into the new habit, you can choose a different handling of it. Do you have NX examples open?
Pulling it up now. Let me put it on the screen here again. So this is my NX examples. I haven't pulled from this recently, Jason. So let me do git pull real quick. Let me see. May have a different remote set. Okay, yeah, I need to pull from upstream. There we go. What
So
package
if
manager
you're-
do you use, Jason?
Yarn.
Is-
You can
Yarn,
run
okay.
Yarn. Yeah, while we install the internet here. Or maybe we don't. Maybe I can share.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just give me
Even
one.
better. Cool. While Jason's getting that set, let me just check on chat here. Say hi to Devadas. Welcome. Kamiar 3001. Hi. What's up? Some more questions here. Let's see. And a friendly face here, Addition Addict. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm going to, let's see. Is your screen coming up, Jason?
We can watch me also install the internet.
Cool.
Okay, so this should be nice and big for people. I'll close that one out.
There we go.
And so this is the behavior for existing workspaces. I'm just installing the latest version of NX so that we can see this prompt here, right? So me, because I'm used to the old version of NX, would be pretty comfortable doing like a generate app, and I'm just going to call it app1 for simplicity's sakes. And I'll do a dry run so that we can do this multiple times. Want an Angular application? Sure. Okay, and here is our option, right? So exactly just like we would have before, if I had run this in like NX 16.4 or something like that older, this is where you would expect the app to be produced. So it would go under apps and you would have the name app1. And sometimes when doing libraries, this would get a lot messier. So if I just want like a UI library inside of a shared directory, like this is how I would normally do it. So this would originally give me a lib shared /UI, and it would have the name shared-ui because that's the directory, right? And NX users are probably pretty familiar with this, they're used to it, but for newer users of NX and for people that want to kind of break out of the apps and libs directory kind of organization, this doesn't work for them. It's really hard to get something outside of the libs directory here when creating a libs, and it's hard-ish to get the name that you want. You'll see for the as provided, it'll look kind of silly at the moment because I'm still kind of using the old pattern of passing my arguments, but this literally creates a library called UI at the root of shared. So I'm going to cancel out of that.
I think that's actually such a big thing, Jason, just because I know for projects I've been in, especially when there's nesting going on, and like you said, it usually happens inside that libs directory, you always end up with this super long, very frustrating to type on at your command line project name, which is frustrating because you always need to do with NX, the NX and then the verb or the task you're going to run and then the project name. So if you have to do shared UI, whatever, and then the name of the project, that's much more frustrating than just saying the name of the project and letting the nesting fall where it will. So
yeah,
I definitely like where this is going.
With the new way, like this is literally the name that you'll get, which is UI, nice and simple. And then the directory is literally the directory where it will be created. So if I run this, let's do some options. This is going to create a nice and short UI library inside of shared UI, like not inside of libs or anything. So you can create things anywhere you want, really. And the cool thing about this is that now you can create things with a different name. So if I have like fancy button, or I'll just say like telemetry, but I actually want to put it inside of, let's say like shared tracking, I'll just say like tracking, right? So like this will be my directory, whereas the name will be telemetry. So like you can name it whatever you want and put it wherever you want. And we're not really dictating it anymore. So the way that we envision doing this is that if you click derived, it will give you a warning, and the warning will say in NX18, which will be like almost a year from now. But like we will take away the old way, and you'll be and it'll give you an example of what you should generate instead. So I wanted a shared tracking telemetry library inside of libs shared tracking telemetry. So you can still do that. You can do whatever you did before, just with different arguments. And then, yeah, I'll show you what happens if you click the as provided. So I've already kind of switched over. I'm passing new arguments. I'm now clicking as provided more and more often. This will ask you if you want to set this as a default. So if I say I'm not ready yet, like I've sort of kind of started getting used to it, I say false, it again warns me and says you should do this soon. And then if I finally say yes, as provided true, this will set it inside of nx.json for you so that you don't have to do this every single time anymore. And this will get rid of the prompt, but it'll move you over to the new way of passing in arguments.
Cool. Very cool. One thing to mention there. So the argument that you mentioned is being set inside of nx.json, and that's inside of workspace layout. I believe you could also do it, Jason, where you just add it as a command line argument as well, where we just say dash dash as provided or as dash provided at the command line level, and that'll push us there as well.
Yeah, you can still pass it as a command line argument. It's like any other option for generator, and it'll appear on all of our project generators. So you could do that as well. I would recommend against that. Because like, again, like you can do anything that you used to do with the new format. It's just more verbose and it has more flexibility. So I can show you nx.json here. So along with some other stuff, this should have set the workspace layout to as provided, right? And this will, going forward for your workspace, change it over to the new method. And newer workspaces are created with this by default, as we saw before, because as someone with a new workspace, you shouldn't have habits yet, and you should just start using the new way from the get-go. The other thing I want to show is the integration with NX Console. So this is a huge thing. Okay, let's go for a library. With NX Console, we've kind of, this is not working. Let's go outside of presentation mode, maybe. Still not working.
You need to
One
make the screen
second.
a bit less zoomed in.
Oh, I just closed the window. 1 second.
I'll hide it for you while you get it figured out, Jason.
Oh,
Let me take it.
back.
You're back. Okay, here we go.
So if I want a library,
It's very
Or-
small now. If you could make it any bigger. IntelliJ problems, I know.
one more. I think this is not responsive.
You need to restart it. I
Reopen
think.
it?
Highlighting,
Okay.
highlighting my funny programming. Oh my god, on stream.
Okay, it's a little bigger. I'm gonna keep it as is. Hopefully people can see it.
Cool.
For this, like, make sure, like, we've switched over to the new format for this because I think for NX Console you have a bit more of an interactive kind of way to do things. So as I'm generating a library, if I just call it UI, right, this will create it under UI as if it's the new way, even though, actually, let me get rid of the other changes so that this is less like the less like the CLI, I guess. So again, if I call this UI, even though my workspace isn't set to do it via the CLI, this will do it via the UI. All right, so you pass a name, that is where it goes. If I pass a directory, like my cart UI now, then it would show up under cart/UI. So I would pay close attention to the generate. This is a more kind of interactive mode. So before you hit generate, make sure you know what you're getting.
Cool.
And this is for existing workspaces and for newer workspaces for NX Console.
Right. So essentially, NX Console, we're always going to use as provided. So
Yes.
the new way from now on.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, cool.
As I said, like, you can do whatever you wanted to do. If you really wanted to, like, go back to the old way, this will be here. Where is it?
Yeah, you can still break out of it in NX Console, but it's just set by default.
Yeah.
Versus the CLI where it's not the default unless you have a new workspace. Nudging you into the right direction gently.
Yeah. Where I know it's I feel like I know it's going to be painful for a lot of people, especially if they've been with the NX for a long time. But I think this is really the right way to go forward in terms of giving y'all more control and more customization over what your project's going to do, like at the generator level. So I'm excited about it. It looks like Hero Devs is in the house here too. Excited about the release. Is that Frosty at the account? I'm not sure, but welcome, Hero Devs. It's cool to see y'all here. Steven Rothbauer, glad you're liking the live streams. We're having fun doing it. Bill's mocking us, but it's all good. And I think a lot of people are not a fan of your light mode, Jason. I hate to say. My eyes were hurting as well. I didn't want to say anything. I did flash it up there while you weren't looking. So yeah. Cool point here from JVA. This is one thing I've always wanted is autocomplete for the CLI, which would be really, really cool. Let me see if there's any other questions here. This is an interesting one from Bill. Maybe Jason, do you want to take this one? I don't think this really changes too much about best practices. It's more about giving you options to deviate from, I guess, maybe a more standard approach, like the one you showed with tracking and telemetry. That's a really nice thing to have. I don't know if you always would want to have a different name versus your directory structure. That may get confusing. I don't know. What's your take, Jason?
I would say, like, for existing NX users, follow the same best practices. I wouldn't like jump into reorganizing the workspace initially, especially if you have a larger workspace. If you're starting a new workspace, I would play around with kind of flattening it out. This will be like further in the future, but I think like creating apps directly under just like cart or like shop, like that makes sense to me. And especially for libraries, like moving it out of libs as well under like just share, or like you can even put it under cart if it's under there, may be good. It really kind of like breaks out of the constraints. But in terms of the best practices, I think the current best practice is tried and true. So you can for sure continue to do that.
Cool. Sounds good. CFXT Bogard. You're not late. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But it's okay. You're here now, and we're glad you're here. Teens in the house too, an NX champion responsible for a lot of NX plugins. Welcome, sir. And let's see. Bill is not mocking, he's empathizing. Okay. You've saved yourself this time, Bill. Cool. We got some more stuff in the chat, but we got to move on. We're getting to a point where I can't hit all the comments anymore, and that's feels cool. It feels like we're real streamers here. So I'm excited. I'm going to go back to my screen here. Let's jump to our open recent, and let's go to 4 Live. I just want to highlight real quick. We'll go through Playwright real quick. I know everyone's excited about it, but we are running behind, so I want to make sure we hit all the cool stuff. So I'm just going to do app generator here. I'm not going to do the dry run because I actually want to create it this time. And we're just going to see, this is one of the big things here, which is Playwright is now fully supported, in my opinion, right alongside Cypress. As you can see here, when we're generating an application, we get the option here. I think before, I don't think we even prompted before. I think you just get Cypress unless you said specifically not to. And now we have the prompts where you can choose between Cypress or Playwright, so you could opt into Playwright. I'm going to do none here because I also wanted to show in the case where you have an existing workspace or an existing front-end project, you can still add Playwright to it, which I expect is the case for a lot of y'all. So let's just skip through the rest of these. We'll give it time to run. And I'll actually, let me get NX console primed up here. There we go. And we can look inside of, well, let's do it this way, actually. I'll go into the generate UI and we'll see for Playwright. Oh, I might have to reload because we just installed it. But here we can go to the generate UI and go to Playwright. Oh, is it not here? I guess we haven't installed it yet. So let's do
I think because
add.
you chose none, right?
Yeah, that's right. You're right, Jack. That's exactly right. I should have hit yes to Playwright. I think that's the moral of the story, is just always say yes to Playwright. Let's see. I don't know if we'll need to. Okay, there it is. Now it's there. So now we can jump into the configuration generator. So now we're using NX console for this, but here we can see we could add it right here to foo. I'm just doing the dry run now so we can just see it's working. It's going to set up your Playwright config. It's going to touch your project JSON to add in an end-to-end target for that. That's just going to run Playwright for you, doing all the cool stuff. I'm really excited for this, so hope y'all are too. And yeah, everyone's, yes, JVA, y'all can all point out my flaws. It's okay. I'm not flawless either, and it's lovely to see the Playwright support here in the chat too. So
I think just quick shout out to, like, there were 3 or 4 Playwright plugins in the community, and we kind of took some of the features from all of them, talked to the authors to make sure they have a migration path. So thanks to everyone who maintained those plugins over the last few months to a couple years.
100%. Let me actually show on screen one more thing here. So this was our plugins registry, and if we look for Playwright, we can actually see there's some with quite a few downloads here from the community. I know that's really small. Let me make that a little bit bigger. Let's squish us a little bit out. But yeah, a lot of community plugins here with a lot of downloads. You can see NX, the official NX one is catching up quick in terms of downloads. I think we'll probably see that one eclipse the others here pretty soon. But huge shout out to all of the plugins that were supporting Playwright before we could get to it. Y'all rock. This is a huge testament to everyone in the chat, and especially the people that were maintaining these plugins. We really appreciate y'all. So
While
thanks.
you're there, could we just
Yeah.
highlight the new metrics that we have on the
Yeah.
previous page?
This was part of the reason why I wanted to show it. But yeah, anything else you wanted to mention here, Jason? There's you can see we have it's all messed up because I've got it's like 200 times zoom, but you can see the last release date, number of npm downloads, number of GitHub stars, and where we have the information, we'll also show the supported NX versions. And this is huge because we've had so many plugins and discoverability has always been an issue. It's always difficult too when you have a plugin that existed in the registry, but we just didn't know how maintained it was or how popular it was or how solid it was. So being able to have these new metrics here to see like how often is it download, how much is it starred, I think that gives us some cool signal to what's going on with these plugins before you just download it and hope that it works. So very cool. Let me go back to here. That's, I think, all we had for Playwright. I think
Just
Jack,
one
you
brief
are
mention for
Yeah.
Playwright. This last thing. So
Yes.
the only thing we didn't support in terms of features is there's a jest runner you can use them like with Playwright. We didn't support it because Playwright has its own test runner, and it didn't make sense. So if you still use that, you still have to use a community plugin that has the support for it. And hopefully you can migrate over to the actual Playwright runner, and then you can use the official plugin.
Very cool. I'm looking through chat real quick. Let's see if there's anything interesting going on here before we move on to some TypeScript stuff. This is a hugely asked question, and I think it's something that is definitely staring us in the face as a gap. So, is there anything we could say here, Jason or Jack?
I think you have to DM Katerina on the Discord.
Okay.
And then she may or may not tell you.
Okay. Spoilers. All right. Sounds good. Dominic, welcome. Another NX champion here. Welcome. And yeah, Max giving away all the secrets here in chat. That's great. Yeah, exactly. Vue.js is definitely kicking up in terms of downloads and in terms of popularity. We definitely want to support it. And as we said, we maybe have pointed out some spoilers there. But yeah, Jack, do you want to jump into TypeScript stuff?
Yeah, sure. I can show some stuff on screen. So we have two things that are unrelated. So one is a performance improvement for anyone using TypeScript project. And here I'm showing a repo. I don't know, maybe you can link it after the live stream. But this is a repo with a bunch of different packages. So I can see, I don't remember how many are in here. Let's say like a few hundred. And there are a few scenarios because in the past, when you have like multiple libraries, I all use TSC to build. We kick up one process per build, right? So if you have 100 libraries, you have 100 processes. And even though some of those are cached, it's still a little bit slow because, you know, if you have a change that affected all of them, for example, now you have like 100 processes on, well, not on parallel, but like some of them will be in parallel and it'll take like a few minutes. Versus what TSC actually has out of the box, which is these things called project references. So to show you what that looks like, I don't know if this is too small. Let me zoom in a bit. So project reference is basically your TS config. You can add in an entry. Let me see. Yeah, so you can add an entry like this to say, oh, that's not correct either. There's a, okay, I remember why. Okay, so usually in TS config, you have to explicitly say which libraries they depend on. for TSC to understand like what the project graph looks like. And if a library's types have not changed, you don't need to rebuild a library that depends on it, right? Because if types haven't changed, there's nothing to rebuild. And that kind of management is fine and actually works well because now you have one single TSC process that can build 100 libraries in one go. But maintaining the references within tsconfig is a little bit cumbersome. Like you can actually make a mistake. You can have stale configs. Like if library A points to B at some point, but then you remove that dependency, forgot to update tsconfig, then you have a problem because now your config is out of date. So with NX, we enable a batch mode support to do the same thing, except in this case, we will use the NX project graph to build up those dependencies for you, so you don't have to maintain them by hand, and there'll be no like out-of-date configs. And this project basically has different scenarios that you can run through, and you can clone it and test it out yourself. We found it to be at least like around 2 times faster in most scenarios. And there are different scenarios that we benchmark. Like one is if you have a project graph and you change something at the leaf, then a lot of things are affected, right? If you change something at the root, then only one project's affected. You can change something in the middle, which like some projects are affected, some are not. So that's what the different scenarios are. And I can't remember if we tried it on a real project or not, but like there are scenarios where it can even be like 5x faster. But it really depends on how your project's set up and like what kind of changes you're doing. I believe we have a video coming out for this as well, so you can watch that video once we release it. And if you do have a workspace where you have many projects, you're suffering from build slowness, you can enable batch mode for NX, which we've had for quite a while. And to enable batch mode, you can just say like NX batch mode true. You can run this build here, right? So this is the main thing, is you have to pass this environment variable here. And yeah, that's it for batch mode, unless someone else wants to chime in. So it's supposed to just make everything much faster.
Yeah, we do spell out the environment variable in the release notes, so you can check it out there for sure. And yeah, I was super impressed by how much it speeds things up. So that's really cool. We have some mumbling in here about view and svelte. And we're at the point now where NXEXT is almost a meme in terms of like whenever they create a plugin, we just kind of steal it and make our own first party support for it. So thanks, Dominic, for the work you do in there. And yeah, something about HTMX. I don't know. I don't think that's in our future. Maybe, but it seems cool.
Maybe if someone creates a community plugin first, then we will.
There we go. Like I think this is on your plate, HTMX. I have the utmost confidence in you. And Chow from the team is here. So Jack, check out Chow's Slack message when you get back, I guess.
I mute Chow on Slack, so sorry Chow.
Nice. Yeah, we all saw Katarina's kitty walking across the desk there. So it's Cat Arena for a reason. But yeah, let's move on. Max is just groaning at my puns. I love it. Jason, do you want to talk about using Rust for TypeScript?
Lost the screen. Yes, I would like to talk about using Rust for TypeScript.
Excellent. I thought you would.
So I'll share my screen. As I talked about last time, we have been using Rust more and more often to do performance-intensive things. Rust is really good at parallelizing things. And the one thing that we could really use some parallelization is to analyze all of the TypeScript dependencies. And so SWC has done a great job of kind of being a Rust implementation of the TypeScript language, both in a compiler and a kind of like a bundler kind of way. So I'll share this in the NX examples repo. I'll show first. This is using the old way of analyzing dependencies. So I have a bunch of variables here. You don't have to pay too much attention to it. But the one thing we are looking at, one second, let me reset that so that we don't have a cache. Okay. One part I want to focus on is the building the TypeScript dependencies.
Could you bump it up just a bit, Jason? I think
More,
we're having a hard time seeing it.
bigger. Okay. I'll
good.
like clean up the output. So this is just all of the performance timings for NX. And the one that I want to show is when we build the TypeScript dependencies. It used to take about 400 milliseconds even on the NX examples repo. So this is using the old methodology, which is using the TypeScript npm package to process TypeScript. And if I turn the new way on, which I'll preface by saying if you have a workspace that you've upgraded, you don't have to do anything. This is just a way for me to toggle it on and off. I have the, one second, we're going to reset again. I'm going to grep the output just so that we can see TypeScript dependencies. Just that one line. Okay. So now it took 7 milliseconds. So for NX
Boom.
example, like this has been, you know, about like 20% or like 20 times faster. It'll differ from repo to repo, but I'll show it now for the NX repo, right? So this is a bigger repo. We have a lot more files here, and I'll again grep for TypeScript dependencies. I will make sure to reset everything so we don't have a cache. And this is using the old way. Takes a few seconds. It took 600 milliseconds or 700 milliseconds for the NX repo. And then I will again do a reset and we'll go with the new way, which again is already on by default for people. And we will see after a few seconds, there's still some time to calculate other kind of dependencies, but for the actual TypeScript analysis, it's down to 300 milliseconds. So this should be across the board faster for people. Depending on the size of your repo, you might get the 20 times boost. You might get the 2 times boost. Let us know if you see a noticeable difference. The other thing that this has kind of allowed us to do is it actually is more accurate. So I think for like NX examples, we saw no difference in how it analyzed dependencies. They should be able to, too much. Get rid of this. There's also a debug mode here. Oh, someone else is looking at a graph.
You're already graphing, it appears.
Already graphing. Not able to show it. There are some slight differences in how it analyzes dependencies. If I go back to the NX repo, oh look, it's a dark theme. I'll do half the theme, half the stream in one, half the stream in the other. The difference is that we don't think will kind of make much of a difference is anything that has a require.resolve. This is now a dependency. Before it was not, but now it is. So by having this line in your code, it will now create a dependency. You can, of course, just like NX ignore it with NX ignore next line. That will still work to return it to the original behavior. But anything that is a dependency with the new method should be more accurate than the old method. We tested it with a whole bunch of different like TypeScript files, and we found some things weren't exactly correct. So in some cases, it'll have some new dependencies that weren't there before. In other cases, it might have like the same dependency, but instead of being static, it's now dynamic. And you might run into some issues, but I think most workspaces should be fine. And any quote unquote issues that you run into is because it's more accurate than what it was before. So,
right. So if there are bugs in terms of there are differences from the Rust one, it's actually that the new one is more accurate than the one that had existed before.
Mhm.
So very cool. And a big takeaway from this, I know when Jason does stuff, I always get intimidated too. But the key takeaway here is when you're doing your stuff, you don't have to think about this. You don't have to do anything different. You just have to, run your stuff. And X is going to make it faster because it's using Rust by default now. So very, very cool. Yeah. As Josh says, how do we live with that inconsistency? You live with it because you're going to get better, JVA. That's how we live with it. Cool. Next up, Max, do you want to show NX Console an interactive graph? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
sure.
Nacho knows what's going on. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Precisely.
I have dark mode on. Just
Good.
just
My
put it on the
eyes will
screen.
be thank you, Max.
All right, so I'm going to do a quick little demo here. So if you know NX Console, you might have seen this this integrated graph already, and I think it's a cool feature. But before the cool stuff that I built that I'm going to talk about now, it was kind of a dead end. So you could like look at this graph, and then that's it. You look at it, you close the tab, and you move on with your life. But
Well,
what we
it
tried
was
to do with
worse
NX
than that, I think, Max. It was like you'd look at this tab and you'd identify, oh, I want to look at that. And then you'd have to close it and then find it again. Right. So
you have to fight it. But that's like the opposite of what we want to do with NX Console, right? We want to make sure you have nice, smooth workflows, and you don't have friction when working. You can just like go along and do the things that seem intuitive. So maybe this is a step in the right direction. So now there's a bunch of stuff you can do with this integrated graph. For example, let me just refresh this. I have this little example here where I modified some stuff in the NX Examples app you've seen already today. And there's this products homepage, which is part of the Angular app and is being imported by the React app, which doesn't really make sense. So if we want to debug this, if you see this in your own app, you can just click on this edge here, and you always saw this files array. And now what you can do is you can click on it, and you'll just be taken here, and you'll see, okay, there's an unused import that doesn't make any sense. I can delete it. I can refresh the graph, and we're good. It looks better. So other stuff
That's
we built is, yeah, I mean, it's a small thing for sure, but like there's going to be a couple of times in your day when you see this and you're like, I want to click on it and I can't, but now you can. Be sure to update NX though, because this only works in the newer versions like 16.7 and up, and some stuff 16.8. Yeah, so another thing is we have this cool little project config button, so you can just, maybe you're wondering what is shared assets, even what is shared header, I don't know. You can look at it, you'll be taken to the project configuration, you can update stuff, maybe here I want to not have this depend implicitly on shared assets, so I can just delete it and see my changes reflected in the graph right away. So it just makes navigation a little bit easier. And then the other side of it is if I go back here, the task graph has cool stuff too. So if I run this build, you can see that there's some, it fails, but that doesn't matter. You can see that there's some dependent tasks, and maybe you're wondering, what are these? I don't want to run it with verbose again. I just want to look at it. So you can look at the task graph, and you'll see what tasks the build depended on. And then if you want to debug something, you can just run it right from here. You can just see build my header. It'll be building the header, which is totally real executor that I didn't just make up. And you'll see what happens. And then, maybe you can run the build again. It's still going to fail, but now we know why, maybe, in an ideal world.
Nice.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is a work in progress in the sense that while building this, I already had like 3 new ideas on what other interactivity you can build into there. So if you have any ideas, let me know. And I think it's only going to get better from here.
Awesome. One thing I've always wanted, Max, is when you do NX graph and you start serving the graph and you get the whole left-hand panel, is that ever coming to NX console? Is that in our future?
Yes, that is maybe coming. So I don't want to have the whole big panel because there's so many options that are going to look weird and in the integrated view. But maybe there's some specific stuff we can pick out and have a reduced sidebar where you can do some more advanced stuff. Stay tuned.
Very cool. Yeah, it looks like we have some recommendation in the chat here too. Jump in, Jit, weighing in again. Thanks for tuning in. Jump in. But yeah, cool. Thanks so much for that, Max. I'm loving stuff with NX console. It's really cool to see. I think we're at like 1.4 million downloads for VS Code, and I think we just hit a milestone with IntelliJ too. Is that correct?
It's 50K, which is
50K.
A very small in comparison, but it's also very young, so
yeah,
still nice.
It'll build up. I'm a VS Code guy myself, but apparently some of y'all like IntelliJ, so there you go. But yeah, Katerina, we've seen the cat. We want this, but we want Storybook. Can you give us Storybook?
Of course, I will give you Storybook. I have my screen ready to be shared.
Oh, sorry. Let me throw it up. There
Okay.
It is.
Yes. So the newest thing on NX for Storybook is our Storybook interaction test generator. So what are interaction tests? I'm going to read this small paragraph here from the Storybook docs because I really like it. In a nutshell, you start supplying the appropriate props for the initial state of a component, then simulate user behavior such as clicks and form entries, and check whether the UI and component state updates correctly. Let me explain a little bit better. Right now, when you generate a Storybook configuration for a project on NX, until the last version, the previous version of NX, you would also generate a Cypress E2E application that would go alongside with it. And in Cypress or in E2E tests in general, what do? You try and simulate user behavior, right? Storybook interaction tests actually replace the need to have a separate E2E project for your application, because right now what we would do is we would generate a Cypress application that would start Storybook. It would go to the Storybook where it was being served, and it would check the actual content to verify that everything is in place. Interaction tests replace that completely. And the good thing about interaction tests is that it's all in the one place that it was already there. Like, since you already have Storybook, you have your interaction tests in your Storybook as well. Wait. And you don't have to have any overlay of installing new like a new tool like Cypress, or having your test in a separate place. Let's take a look how this looks like. So say, for example, let's see the simplest example that doesn't really have any much value for an E2E test, but still it works, or an interaction test, but still it works. Let's say you have this component here, this React component. And by the way, this works both for Angular and React in NX. But let's say that we have this React component here. And you have an H2 with, you add a data test ID with an ID here, and you have a title. If you have a story for it, your story looks like usual, but what you have as extra is the play function. So in the play function, you can query the DOM, and you get your canvas, which is your DOM, and you have this like this normal testing library search methods, and you can find by test ID. So you have the data test ID here, and you add my title, and you get the object that you want. The text content should be Katerina. If you pass as args because you have here the props. If you pass Katerina and if you pass Manmu, you expect to find Manmu. So this is the simplest form of a test that you can have. And this is what it would look like. Let me make this a bit bigger. I think it would be this one here. Or no, sorry. I'm not showing the correct. Okay, this one here. So in the heading Katerina, in your controls, you would have the title Katerina, and interactions, you would have these two steps here. That first you look up by ID and it's you find the element, and then you verify that the text is what you expect it to be. The same with Manmu if you change the title from interactions. But interaction testing can become much more complicated. For example, if you have a button, a React button that can be clicked in your stories, you can simulate a user event. So a user could click the elements button and you would expect the UI to update correspondingly. And let's see how that would look. So it would have these 4 interactions here. Click the button, verify that that the text is that, click the button, verify that the text is that. And you could run it again and it would run the interactions for you. Of course, this can get much more complicated as you understand. But what's cool about that, there are 2 things that are cool about that. First, of course, you can see it right here and you can run each step separately. But what's so cool about that is that while Storybook is running, you can use Storybook Test Runner to run these tests, and you get your results for running these tests and see, sort of like you would run an E2E test and verify that your UI corresponds to what you want it to be. And the other cool thing about that is that, as you know, you can publish and share Storybook, right? Because Storybook, you can build it and then you can serve it statically, right? So you can actually publish it like I have done here. So this is a published Storybook in storybook-play.vercel.app. And in here, you actually get all your interaction tests so that you can actually share a whole test procedure or a whole test scenario with a member from your team or someone else, right? Because and in this way you can even share a bug or something that works or anything. So I think, yeah, these are the 2 coolest features of interaction tests. First, that you can just add them in your CI process, and second, that you can actually share these tests with anyone. And what NX does in all this, because this is all Storybook, as you can understand, is that when you generate your Storybook, so let's say I want to generate Storybook configuration for this library called Malone. It asks me, do you want to set up interaction tests? And if I click yes, if I click yes to everything, it will install the dependencies that need to be installed for interaction testing, which is basically the Storybook add-on interactions add-on. And on top of that, it will create a super simple interaction test for you that just verifies that some text exists there, like the welcome to Malone text that in here exists. And you can build on top of that whatever you see fit.
Yeah, I think this is such a good example of like the magic of NX, which is I actually completely forgot about Storybook plugins and that they were a thing, because all I do is run the NX generator and it happens. And we have it there just because we checked a box on NX console thanks to the work of Max, or we just added it in as an option in the generator. I think interaction test is on by default now too. Is that right,
Yes.
Katerina? Cool.
Correct. Yeah,
Very
I don't
cool.
see the reason why anyone would not want interaction tests.
Right. And I guess if we didn't want it, it's as easy as just removing that play method at the end of the day, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, very cool. That's really cool to see. like I said, I completely forgot there was even like an installation step for Storybook plugins, and I don't need to now because of the NX. But yeah, let's I wanted to go over chat because JVA said something funny here. I think this is in regards to NX console support for Eclipse. What's the other one? NetBeans? Was that the other old Java one? So can we have that, Max? Or I feel like you're gonna say no.
I haven't looked at the numbers, so
I don't think they're
I feel like
good.
it's gonna be a hard no, but who knows how
Yeah.
many Eclipse users there's out there.
Maybe when we get that Java plugin in, if we ever do that. But yeah, I see there's a lot of conversation between you and Jump In Jet about interesting stuff that we could do with the graph. I know badges was something we've talked about for a while, but it's just hard to do, especially when things are as extensible and as configurable as our stuff. So I know that's weird, and just having more tags, because you can have an infinite number of tags as well. So it's hard to show that stuff, all that stuff, without getting cluttered. But you have my faith with this, Max. I know you'll do a great job with whatever y'all decide. Let's see. Chromatic plus Storybook is an easy one to check UI changes. I'm actually not familiar with Chromatic, but that sounds very cool. It's from the sounds of it, it's like a way of comparing previous releases. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Chromatic is the company behind Storybook, and they have these visual testing tools.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. Thank you, Katerina. I see Trogdor the Burninator is in the chat here. I don't think I'm the one you want to sign your laptop. I think it's probably Jason, probably Jack, probably everyone else on the panel. I just do the videos, man. But yeah, we'll be in NYC, so it will be, if you want to stop by and get your laptop signed, I'm sure we'd love to. The NeoVim plugin is underwhelming. Yeah, we don't really have a NeoVim plugin so much as we just have the NXLSP, which you can use in NeoVim. Is that right, Max?
There's a community one, I think. There is
okay.
NeoVim plugin by someone, but it's not us, so you're not the first person to say that it's underwhelming. But yeah, you can just install the LSP and get all the autocomplete and goodness without using any third-party tools because the LSP's been hit by us. So you can do that. There's a guide. It might be outdated, but I saw Chow in the chat somewhere. He's done it before, so bother him. Oh, see, he's commenting right.
Yep. There's Chow, and Brandon. Yep, Eclipse. But yeah, I think that's most of what we had. Jack, I have a note here that you were going to talk about stacks. What are stacks? Is that like?
Yeah, I can just
examples?
share my screen real quick. It'll
Yeah.
be like
here you go.
10-second spiel. So if you haven't seen the intro page in a while, this is our updated intro page. And we have our existing tutorials are over here. So you're probably used to those. And this is new. So pick your stack. We added a bunch of things. So people are asking, like, can I use Express? And like, we don't have a tutorial explicitly for Express, but you can click on it and it'll bring you to a page that explains how you can use stuff. So even like Vue, Fastify, Quick, there are examples for those. So that's a new section. If you are interested in these technologies, go there, give it a shot. And then if you have any feedback, just let us know on Discord or open an issue or something.
Awesome.
So that's that. I realized I didn't talk about packaging, but I think we can save that for another time because that's
a whole other bag of worms, and we're over time already. We do have some questions here. I know we're taking a lot of y'all's time already. If y'all need to drop off, that's fine. I did want to answer some of these because some of these look really cool. To Stefan, so this was something that was brought up earlier. Spoilers, but you can ask Katerina about Vue support. I'm not sure, is Nuxt on the table as well, Katerina? Well, I guess we'll find out. So cool. That's cool. And wanted to hit this one because this is an interesting, like, kind of full picture question. So how is NX categorized? Is it like a task runner or a build system or in between? It's kind of all of the above. What would you say, Jason? I'd be interested in your answer here.
Yeah, I'd say like all of the above. I think like NX is a dev tool. It's a very generic term. I think the core of NX is definitely a build system. And when we make integrations, like we don't try to do it our way or anything. Like we really just kind of want to create all of the necessary connections so that it works well in the build system. And like build system may be like a bad name, but like, you know, that also includes running tasks such as tests, lint, all that stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It's grown a lot for sure. I think like in the last year, we've definitely added a whole ton of new integrations with things. But I think at its core, like the ones that affect everyone, it's things that allow you to run tasks more efficiently, able to like hash tasks that you can get the caching in there. So yeah, I'd say like build system is really the core of NX. And then the NX team also handles creating all of these different integrations for like technologies like Angular, React, soon to come Vue, as the cat has been let out of the bag now. So yeah, like we want to continue making it easy for people to use NX as a build system. But I think a couple of streams ago, we went over something for a Create NX workspace being extensible for other people. And the way that we see it is that other people are doing a great job of creating new technologies out there. Like there's newer frameworks coming out every day and stuff like that. And we'd like to make it easy for them to set up a workspace that just happens to use NX. Like NX is the build system that works for them as a build, like as a dev tool. So we really think that like we want to be a dev tool for other technologies to kind of just use and enhance their kind of technologies onboarding. So I wouldn't get too attached to like the fact that NX has like a bleeding edge support for Angular, like React, and any of those. We will in the foreseeable future, but at our core, like we really want to be a build system for many different technologies. And that may even include other languages. Like we really like to see the community going and creating plugins for like Rust, .NET, Java, like all of those. Like NX is a build system that should be configurable to do anything and everything. So yeah, build system is the word that I associate with the core of NX, but for the NX team, like it really is just an overall dev tool.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. When it comes to surface area for NX, the surface area is anything and everything, according to Jason Jean. So
I think like you can see it as like a VS Code for DevTools. Like VS Code, it was born out of JavaScript and like writing, I don't know, your run-of-the-mill JS apps. But there's like plugins for VS Code for Java now. There's plugins for VS Code to add like, I don't know, rainbow indents, like anything. Like NX is pluggable. So even though at its core it's a build system, it has all of the extension points that you need to create any kind of plugin you want.
Yeah, 100%. The thing I keep converging on for what NX is, like now at least, is it's a tool that takes all the chores and all the knowledge that you don't need to do your job and puts it on our shoulders instead, so that you can just focus on doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is, building awesome features for your users. So that's what I feel like I always end up saying in a lot of these videos. So I think I might be onto something there, but we'll see. Let's see. I think that's a lot. Devados has a lot of thanks for all the work from the NX team. So we really appreciate that. Very kind of you to say. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the live streams too. This is a lot of fun for me. So if we can do more of these and we keep getting this kind of turnout, we'll keep doing them for sure. NX is a church. That's not where I want to go actually. But yeah, we've got too many comments here again, folks. So I'm sorry we can't get to them all. We really got to shut this down before I start hogging all of our engineers' time. But everyone, thanks so much for joining. Everyone on the panel, everyone in the chat. It's so cool to see like all the interaction. Definitely makes us feel, thankful that y'all showed up and are appreciating all the stuff that we're working on. I know the team's working super hard, and yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, we got to end it quick so we can end on 69 minutes. So we're going to do that now. So bye, y'all. Thanks.
See you, everyone.